At the beginning of a new week, we are live.
Live. Welcome back, cocktail lovers, to another edition of the fanciful fumblings that we call Drinks with David. And we're continuing for another week or for whatever indeterminate time we determine with Dealer's Choice or Wild Card. So I'm up tonight. So let me tell you what I have chosen for our vast audience. Perhaps the longest title of a drink we've had yet. It is Old Mr. Boston's Special Cocktail number 2.
Flip it over.
Oh, number 2.
Hashtag 2.
No, 2. Anyways, so just a little word about Old Mr. Boston. We looked it up. It was a distillery that was in Boston from 1933 to 1986. It actually still exists. You can still buy Mr. Boston various aperitifs, but it's been bought up by several companies in between. But it still exists. So we are continuing our exploration of the 1945 edition of Old Mr. Boston's Deluxe Official Bartender's Guide.
I like how it's spelled deluxe.
Deluxe in sort of fancy, script there. So
Yes.
there you go. Anyway, so you might ask, what is in an Old Mr. Boston Special Cocktail number 2?
One might
I'm not going to tell you what's in number 1. That's for another episode.
That's right.
So it's an interesting mix, is what got my eye. It's a mixture of bourbon, port wine, sweet vermouth, and a dash or two of bitters, served in a cocktail glass. I want to comment a little about the cocktail glasses we're using tonight. The recipe specifically calls for a 3-ounce
Oops, sorry.
3-ounce cocktail glass. These I have collected over the years. Nowadays we're so used to every drink being served either in a highball glass or a Collins glass or a martini glass. But back in the 40s when this book was written, there were actually specific little cocktail glasses, of which these are 2 examples, that are exactly 3 ounces, for which these sort of cocktails were designed. So let's have at it though. So this is a drink that's made, it's stirred, not shaken. So we're using our little planetary stirring glass here, and we'll put in some ice. And we're going to start with 1.5 ounces of bourbon. We're using Wild Turkey tonight.
We're making only one cocktail this evening.
That is correct. I have 2 glasses just to show you. We picked these up over the years at thrift stores. They're getting actually exceedingly hard to find. Either people are collecting them or they're just getting so old that...
Or you've purchased them all.
Oh, we purchased them all. And then we're going to have 3/4 of an ounce of port wine. This is care of Father Christopher, and served in a beautiful decanter my parents bought me in England at Harrods.
Oh my!
So 3/4 of an ounce. That's perfect. And then just a teaspoon, a soupçon of sweet vermouth, which we all told you last week. Sweet vermouth is Italian vermouth, and dry vermouth is French vermouth. And then we're going to have 2 dashes of bitters. Tonight we're using Picode, which is slightly different. So we'll go 1.
Wasn't he in charge of that Star Trek ship? Captain?
Yeah, Captain Picode, yes.
Come on, that was good.
Close, Larry, close, Larry. So, and then you stir it with our social distancing spoon.
Now, super fan Lori last week asked to see how the strainer is put in the glass.
So you put it up to the edge. See, you can see it has sort of a metal
spring
there.
It goes inside the glass.
Right, and then you stick it up and you can actually press it against the side.
All right.
You bring up your glass.
Come in for the pour.
And then you pour it, and it goes through the slots that you have. That way you have a nice... And you can see...
You keep the ice out.
Keeps the ice out. And you can see, with our little 3-ounce cocktail glass, you get a perfect pour.
Oh, my goodness.
And doesn't that look lovely?
It's
beautiful.
beautiful.
Now we want to be careful here that we don't spill it.
Don't spill it.
And now it's time for the all-important taste test.
Because if it doesn't taste good, what's the point?
That's really very nice. You have The port sort of mellows it out. You know, it's primarily going to give you a bourbon taste, and then a little bit of bitters and just a touch of sweetness from the vermouth. So it's a very nice bourbon drink. I highly recommend it. For people who like old fashions, it's not as sweet as an old fashioned, but it has sort of a mix of flavors that might remind you of an old fashioned.
Flavor!
Flavor Flav!
All right.
Anyways, enjoy, folks. Another good exploration, and tune in tomorrow night for my erstwhile partner here for another episode of Wild Card or Dealer's Choice.
Good night.
Until then.